The Galactic Council gathered, their towering forms casting long shadows across the gleaming chamber. Their eyes, glowing with intelligence and age, scanned holographic displays as the approaching fleet neared. A hum of apprehension buzzed through the air. The council members, each from an ancient and powerful species, were not easily unnerved. Yet today, there was tension. The fleet they now observed was unlike anything they had expected. It moved with precision, its scale impressive, even by galactic standards. They couldn't identify its origin, only that it was closing in on the borders of their domain. "They're human?" The voice that broke the silence was laced with disbelief. The council members exchanged confused glances. Humans were a young race, a mere footnote in the grand history of the galaxy. Primitive, unorganized, barely more than scavengers in the eyes of these elder species. They had been allowed to exist on the fringes, not worth the effort of assimilation or conquest. Now, though, this fleet challenged everything the council had believed. This was no small exploratory force or ragtag group of wanderers. What was approaching them seemed calculated, deliberate, powerful. "Humans," a council member scoffed. "They barely mastered space travel. They've been disorganized, weak. How could they command a fleet of this magnitude?" The council's intelligence reports on humanity had been sparse but dismissive. Their ships were outdated, their technology far behind the galactic norm. It had always been assumed that if humans ever attempted to expand, they'd be easily subdued. They were, at best, a curiosity. At worst, an annoyance. No one had ever considered them a threat. The elder species had watched as humanity squabbled amongst themselves, barely holding their fledgling space colonies together. Yet now, the approaching fleet told a different story. The hologram flickered, showing the fleet in greater detail. It was vast, stretching farther than the initial scans had indicated. The ships, dark and imposing, moved with precision. And their size, far beyond what had been expected from a species supposedly decades behind in technology, defied the Council's understanding. They had assumed the humans' expansion would be marked by clunky, inefficient designs, perhaps retrofitted from scavenged galactic technology. This was something else entirely. "This can't be right," another council member muttered, scanning the data feed again. "Are we certain they're human?" As they debated, a council scout arrived, face pale. "The human fleet has reached the galactic border," he announced, voice shaking with a mix of awe and fear. "Initial scans were inaccurate. It's much larger than anticipated, far larger." The council chamber fell into an uneasy silence. They had faced countless threats over the millennia, yet something about this fleet, about the humans, seemed different. The council members, so used to dominance, felt a stir of doubt. Their ancient ships, while still formidable, seemed almost stagnant compared to the raw, unfamiliar power they now faced. Could the humans have progressed this far without their knowledge? "We underestimated them," one of the elder members finally admitted, voice heavy with reluctant respect. "They've evolved faster than we thought possible. But still, they cannot stand against us. We are the Galactic Council." The other members nodded, some more hesitantly than others. They were, after all, the most advanced beings in the galaxy. Their fleets had crushed empires, their technology unmatched for millennia. And yet doubt lingered. "We need to assess the situation carefully," a more cautious voice interjected. "This fleet, whatever it is, didn't come here by accident. We should attempt communication before we act. It's possible the humans are bluffing." "Bluffing?" The disdain was palpable. "Humans always bluster. But they fall quickly. We've seen it before." The council continued its debate, weighing their options. Some called for immediate action, a swift and overwhelming display of force to remind the humans of their place in the galactic hierarchy. Others suggested caution, pointing out that this fleet's power could not be fully understood yet. It would be unwise to strike without knowing the humans' true capabilities. After all, why would a species that was considered inferior venture so boldly into council territory unless they had a reason to believe they could win? Finally, the decision was made. "We will establish contact," the council leader declared. "Let them speak first." But we will be ready. Our forces will mobilize. Within moments, the Council's fleets were preparing, vast warships stirring from their docking bays, engines humming to life. Crews, trained and experienced in the art of galactic warfare, took their positions. The Council, for all its bravado, was not unprepared. If this human fleet truly intended to challenge them, it would face the might of an alliance that had crushed civilizations. Yet, as the Council awaited the humans' first transmission, an unspoken tension hung in the air. They had never feared a species as young as humanity before. But this fleet, this inexplicable power, it defied everything they knew. The final moments before the communication line opened were fraught with a mixture of arrogance and anxiety. Humans, one of the elder council members muttered under their breath. What do they think they're playing at? The image of the human fleet filled the council's main screen, casting an eerie glow across the chamber. What they saw defied their expectations. The ships were sleek, angular, and brimming with power, nothing like the crude, cobbled-together vessels they had anticipated. Each ship was an imposing fortress, outfitted with weapons and shielding technology that even the most advanced species present had not yet perfected. There was no wasted space, no needless embellishment. It was a fleet designed for function and domination. The silence in the council chamber was suffocating. They had expected rusting hulls, outdated engines, and a ragtag formation. Instead, they were staring at a force that radiated precision and strength. How is this possible? One member whispered, their voice barely masking their shock. The contrast between their sterile, elegant ships, built with centuries of refinement, and the brute force of the human fleet was jarring. The humans had managed to craft vessels that, while devoid of the aesthetic finesse the Council had come to expect, were undeniably powerful. It was raw, unpolished, and yet, it was terrifying in its effectiveness. The data streams flooding the chamber only worsened the Council's confusion. The fleet's sheer size and technological sophistication were far beyond anything their intelligence had predicted. Each ship carried enough firepower to rival one of their own dreadnoughts. And there were hundreds of them. Thousands. It was a force that no one had foreseen. The humans had been building this quietly, right under their noses. Now, it hovered at the edge of their space like a storm waiting to unleash its fury. For the first time in centuries, the Council felt a chill of genuine fear. This doesn't make sense, muttered a senior member. They shouldn't have this level of technology. They can't. Our reports, they were supposed to be disorganized, fighting amongst themselves. Others were less calm. We should destroy them now, one of the more aggressive council members barked, slamming their fist against the table. Wipe them out before they have a chance to act. We cannot allow this fleet to threaten us. A ripple of agreement spread through part of the chamber, but there were those who hesitated. And if we fail? What then? If we attack now, we may provoke a war we are not prepared for. A cautious voice interjected. The room erupted into murmurs. Divisions began to form, each faction grappling with the unimaginable reality before them. This isn't the first time we've miscalculated humans, another counselor admitted quietly. Remember when the Dregery tried to enslave them? It was supposed to be easy, just another primitive race to control. And what happened? They overthrew the entire operation within months. We assumed it was luck, an anomaly. But what if we were wrong? The chamber quieted at this bitter reminder. The Dregery had been humiliated, their empire brought to its knees by a species they hadn't deemed worthy of proper surveillance. The Council had dismissed it as a fluke at the time, a rare instance of human unpredictability. But now, faced with this fleet, it was becoming clear that humanity had evolved far beyond their early assessments. They hadn't just survived, they had thrived, and somehow, they had done so without the Council noticing. Now, they stood at the gates of the Galactic core, and no one had answers. They've been underestimated for far too long, the voice continued. And now, it seems they've surpassed us in ways we couldn't imagine. Suddenly, a sharp tone pierced the room. Communication from the human fleet. Every eye in the chamber turned toward the screen as the connection opened. The figure that appeared was human, no surprise there, but the ease with which they carried themselves was unnerving. There was no deference, no sign that they viewed the council as their superiors. If anything, there was a hint of amusement in their expression. "This is Admiral Clark of the United Human Fleet," the figure said, the words coming out smooth and calm. "I assume you've been expecting us." The silence was deafening. The council had no immediate response. Clark's voice continued, unbothered by their lack of reply. "I'm sure you've noticed by now that things have changed. We've been busy." The arrogance, the confidence, was unmistakable. This was not the behavior of a species that viewed itself as inferior. The council's collective pride bristled, but no one dared interrupt. Clark's tone was casual, almost taunting. "It took some time, of course. We learned from you, from the galaxy. Your technology, your strategies, we studied it all. And then we improved on it. I think you'll find we've made some enhancements." Hints of the truth began to sink in. The humans had reverse-engineered what they could from the galactic species, but they hadn't stopped there. They had taken the technology and pushed it further than anyone had thought possible. The Council had assumed that humanity's relative isolation had limited their progress, but in reality, it had given them the space to innovate without oversight. They had leapfrogged the Council's advancements in ways that defied explanation. Clark's smile widened slightly as if sensing their disbelief. "We've always been good at adapting. It's kind of our thing. Now, I don't want to waste your time. We're here for a reason. But before we proceed, you should know, this isn't going to go the way you think it will. Whatever power you think you have over us, whatever control you believe you still hold, it's gone." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Clark's words carried an unmistakable finality. The humans had not only caught up to them, they had surpassed them. The fleet before them wasn't just a threat. It was a declaration: the era of humanity's subservience was over. "Now," Clark continued, "shall we discuss terms? Or would you prefer to test us first?" The tension had built to an unbearable peak. Despite the gnawing uncertainty, the Council decided that there was only one way to truly gauge the human strength: force. A small fleet was deployed, enough to be formidable, yet not their full might. They didn't want to appear desperate, even as doubt clawed at the edges of their pride. The sleek, advanced warships of the Council's fleet surged forward, a symbol of their age-old supremacy. Within moments, the battle began. But it wasn't a battle. It was a massacre, on the Council's side. The humans responded with a level of precision that left even the most battle-hardened commanders speechless. Their ships moved like predators, cutting through space with ruthless efficiency. In the first few moments, a dozen Council ships were obliterated before their captains could issue a single order. The humans' weapons were unlike anything the Council had seen: rapid, devastating, and strangely efficient, bypassing shields and defenses with surgical accuracy. Council members watched in horror as the battle unfolded on their screens. It wasn't just the power of the humans' weapons, it was their strategy. Every move the humans made was perfectly timed, as if they had predicted every action of the Council fleet. The Council ships, designed for endurance and power, now seemed slow and lumbering compared to the swift, deadly precision of the human vessels. "What are those weapons?" one Council member murmured, eyes wide as another ship exploded into a cascade of debris. The Council had faced countless enemies, some of them incredibly advanced, but nothing compared to this. Their entire understanding of warfare was being rewritten in front of their eyes. Within minutes, the engagement was over. The Council fleet had been decimated. Human ships, untouched, glided back into formation. The silence in the Council chamber was deafening, broken only by the soft hum of their systems recalibrating after the shock. The communication screen flickered back to life, and Admiral Clark's face appeared once more, calm and collected as if nothing of importance had transpired. "That was just a demonstration," Clark said, voice steady. "A warning. We didn't come here for war, but you forced our hand. Next time, we won't be so lenient." The words hung in the air, chilling in their simplicity. It wasn't a boast or a threat, It was a fact, delivered with the same casual confidence that had unnerved the Council from the start. The humans had made their point. They didn't need to destroy the Council fleet completely. They had already shattered any illusion of superiority the Council had once held. Clark continued, tone unchanged. You now know what we're capable of. But we didn't come to conquer. Not today. We're here to talk. If you're ready to listen. The transmission cut out, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Their ships, their defenses, their entire strategy, it had all been rendered useless in a matter of moments. The horror on their faces was palpable. They had underestimated the humans at every turn, and now, the consequences of that arrogance were laid bare. One by one, the members of the Council turned to their leader. We have miscalculated, someone finally said, breaking the silence. The understatement of the century. The Council had not just miscalculated, they had failed to understand the very nature of humanity. What had once seemed like a backwater species, barely capable of maintaining order on their own planet, had now evolved into a galactic force that rivaled even the mightiest civilizations. They outclassed us, another voice said, still in disbelief. In ways we couldn't even comprehend. It was clear now. The humans were not just another species vying for a place in the galactic order, they were a rising power. And if the Council continued to treat them as anything less, they would be signing their own extinction. They could have destroyed us, the Council leader finally said, breaking the heavy silence. But they didn't. They wanted us to know what they can do, and to consider our next move carefully. The room fell into another silence, but this time it was one of contemplation, not shock. The Council had always seen themselves as the pinnacle of galactic power. Now they were faced with a stark choice. They could continue to treat the humans as an inferior species and risk everything, or they could acknowledge the new reality. Humans were not just equals, they might even be superior. The power dynamics of the galaxy had shifted, and the Council had to decide how they would adapt. If we refuse to acknowledge their strength, we will be making the same mistake again, a senior member said, voice steady but laced with resignation. We have to consider an alliance. An alliance? The word hung in the air. It was unthinkable, yet it made sense. The humans had proven their power, and if the Council continued to oppose them, the outcome would be catastrophic. Better to align with them now than face inevitable destruction later. We have no choice, the Council leader finally admitted. Either we work with them, or prepare for a future where they dominate the galaxy. The decision was clear, though it left a bitter taste. The Council, so used to ruling with unquestioned authority, now had to consider the unthinkable. Humanity's place not just as a participant in galactic affairs, but as a potential ruler. The era of human irrelevance was over, and in its place stood a force that could reshape the galaxy.